Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. I am Matt Jones. Joining me, as ever, and that seems to be quite a common theme, actually, Connor, when Everton lose at home. It's just me and you, isn't it? Everybody else just cries off. You know, when they get towards the end of the week, we're previewing a different game, they're all back again. But crucially, mate, huge day, because about an hour ago, as we're sitting here now, on Tuesday afternoon, Everton confirmed the signing of a centre-forward. It's Betto. He's from Udinese. He's big, he's fast, and hopefully he's going to score plenty of goals for us, mate. How do you feel about this one?
Well, if there's opening words anything to go by, he loves scoring goals, and he knows that the team need goals. So that's but always good to have a forward who wants to score goals, isn't it? But no, I think the overriding feeling is just kind of relief that Everton have brought a senior, kind of experienced centre forward, and obviously Yusuf Shamiti joined the club earlier on this summer in a deal from Sporting CP. Obviously, in terms of Shamiti, I think Sean Dyche knows it that he's a little bit away in terms of being that main number 9. He's certainly one who I think is more for the development this season, although he was chucked on at the end towards the end of Saturday's game against Wolverhampton Wanderers. But I don't think we'll see him kind of start and leading the line on a regular basis. I think Sean Dyche is very much keen to, ease Yusuf Shamiti into the fold. So in terms of Betto, that's why it was so important to bring in an experienced centre forward. Obviously, Shea Adams was linked. Most recently, I went as a bid rejected for him. Obviously, at the start of the summer, Rodrigo at Leeds United was under consideration. Dembele was another one. Everton have tried to bring in a centre forward, but for various reasons, it's not quite come to fruition. I think there's obviously issues around transfer fees and wages, etc. But they finally got their man. I think is the big takeaway from all this, because obviously he's someone who Everton tried to bring in January towards the end of that panicked, what ended up being a dreadful window. They spoke to Udinese and Beto, I think, over a deal, but nothing could be agreed, especially given it was on the final day. But they finally now got their man, and hopefully what Beto has said this afternoon after joining the club comes true, and he scores lots of goals for Everton, and he fixes the biggest problem that Sean Dyche has got right now, which is scoring goals, because like we've seen on Saturday again, just like we did against Fulham at the start of the season, Everton can do a lot of good except put the ball in the back of the opposition's net. So hopefully Beto can come in and fill that void and adjust to English football as well, because obviously this is a massive step up for him personally. It's okay scoring goals in Serie A, and we've seen people score goals in Serie A, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will come in and hit the ground in the Premier League. It's a totally different challenge and a totally different demand playing in the Premier League than what it is in Serie A. So Everton have got a few things that they're going to be hopeful for, in terms of a better adjustment to life in the Premier League and being able to score goals. But it's certainly a positive transfer and positive acquisition, and you just now hope that he does fill that massive void that is in Sean Dyche's squad, and also as well, it helps as well take the burden off Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because obviously we've seen for so long now that if Dom's fit and firing, then Everton wouldn't have any concerns or any issues regarding goal scoring. Unfortunately, the last 2 years he's not been fit enough on. He's been unfit more than fit. So now you kind of get the feeling that this will at least enable Sean Dyche, once Calvert-Lewin is back fit and Beto is in the thinking, that he can mix things up and do and rest and rotate and know that he's not reliant on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think is one of the big positives from all this.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a surprise to any of our listeners to say that neither me or you watch Udinese every single week by any means.
Disappointed, Mike. I thought you would have been a keen Serie A Sunday night fan.
No, now I'm a bit older. I've got actual responsibilities, mate. I've got to do sort of growing up stuff now instead of just tuning in for foreign football. But it seems like from everything you've seen of him and videos and stuff, and I'm sure we've all done the YouTube scouting routine by now, and watched the videos with the horrendous background music. Gone down a few rabbit holes there, but he looks ideal, doesn't he? I think for you said there about Calvert-Lewin and finding somebody who can effectively do what he does. And I think we've spoken on the pods a bit this season, sort of saying, well, that's easy to say, but to find somebody who is 6'4" and is mobile and who can chip in with the odd goal as well is not easy. Players who are established doing that in the top leagues around Europe tend to cost 40, 50, 60 million pounds. But this lad seems like he can do a bit of that. A lot of the goals which I think he scored, which you've seen online, are him racing through onto passes either balls over the top or balls threaded in between the fullback and centre back, which is encouraging. So he can certainly shift to someone who's got that frame as well. And I think if you just think about the way Everton have played under Dyche, Connor, and there have been times where it looks like it's sort of worked up until the point which it hasn't, which tends to be, the ball being launched into the channel, getting on the end of things, that final, touch in the penalty area that we've spoken about already this season. So you can sort of see where he'd be a bit of a plug-in and play option, can't you, as opposed to somebody like Chimity, you said there, who's going to take a bit of developing. It feels like this lad's a bit more rough and ready to go and should be able to adapt to the Premier League relatively quickly, given his physical stature.
Yeah, I think Sean Dyche, summed up quite perfectly, really, in his comments, upon Betto signing, when he says, he's a powerful striker who can carry the ball, holds up play, is strong in the air and works half the team. He has a lot of attributes that we hope can see him prove to be a success for Everton, which I think is, in terms of just them 4 or 5 things there, they're huge, aren't they, for Everton? Because when you do play with a lone forward, there's a lot reliant on them. I mean, I was quite fortunate to speak to Dominic Calvert-Lewin after the Sporting game, and he alluded to that, like he said, well, when I play, I have to put a shift in, I have to, be the number one forwards and get around the pitch, and there's no time to shrink, or there's no time to hide as Everton centre forward. You've got to put a lot of work in. So I think for Beto, for Everton, it's as much them attributes as it is him actually scoring goals. Obviously, it'd be great if he does score goals, but there's a lot more to life being an Everton number 9 than just scoring goals or getting yourself in a position to score goals, because you have to put a real shift in, and you have to do a lot of hard work in and around the box and in and around, holding up play and stuff like that, which we've seen Everton struggle to do. You think of last season at Old Trafford, for instance, and around Anfield, and this is no pick on anyone else, simply because he led the line on both of them occasions, but Everton couldn't get out because he couldn't get the ball to a recognised centre forward, experienced centre forward who could relieve that pressure. But you think of the difference that Dominic Calvert-Lewin made against Arsenal in Sean Dyche's first game, went for 60 minutes. He was an absolute nuisance, held the ball up, draw fouls, allowed his team to get up the pitch. And that's what Everton need on a weekly basis. They need that person. Aston Villa, again, was another prime example recently. Once Calvert-Lewin went off, the ball just wouldn't stick up top, and Everton just kept coming under pressure and more pressure. And, don't you, eventually that pressure's going to tell. It takes its toll. So that's what Everton needs, as much as someone could score goals, someone who can hold the ball up. And we've said this before on the pod, the problem Everton have long had is, because when Calvert-Lewin is fit, he's so good that trying to replace him or bring in someone who can play instead of him if he's not available is really hard, because there's not many players out there who can do what Dominic Calvert-Lewin does for Everton, who are not expensive or not coming at a high premium rate. So that's why I think this deal for Betto is really impressive, because I just think he ticks a lot of the boxes in terms of what I suspect Sean Dyche will have wanted. He'll tick a lot of boxes in terms of what Kevin Felwell and the club will have wanted in terms of his age, his profile, stuff like that. So I feel it's just a really positive side. Not only is it forward, but he's going to have all the attributes that you need in a Sean Dyche team. And he's also at that perfect age where 20, 25, hopefully about to hit his peak, blossoms at Everton and develops, and further down the line either becomes prolific Premier League centre forward, and Everton could maybe make more money on the investment that they've made if they were to sell him. But it just seems to me a really sensible transfer. I think you've got to commend Kevin Felwell for getting this one over the line, because I can imagine it probably not being easy.
Yeah, and he obviously did his interview with the club channels, and we got usually when players sign, you get the typical statement through, Connor, and it's quite similar and boring, isn't it? But there's a few nice little lines from him in this one. Of course, he said he spoke to Jarrad Branthwaite about his time at Everton, and I think Branthwaite has since tweeted saying, enjoy the toffees, lad, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Obviously, rekindling his Scouse lingo there. And Betto himself also said that after watching his idol Samuel Eto'o play for Everton, he's an Everton supporter as well. So not choosing to follow Eto'o's allegiances to Barcelona or to Inter Milan. It's his time at Everton, which has really stood out for him as well. So nice that he's aware of the football club from watching Eto'o wear the number 5 and rip up Burnley, and of course through his now former teammate Deulofeu too.
Yeah, it was very interesting, wasn't it? I think it's safe to say more than anything. I think it was interesting and unexpected. I think was some of them lines in that press release. I don't think anyone quite, would have expected Betto to admit that he dreams as a school lad to play Goodison. I don't normally, as much as we all love Goodison Park, and we'll be sad to see it go when it goes soon. You don't suspect many Portuguese players sitting there in high school dreaming of playing at Goodison when you've got some of the great arenas in world football. But no, it's nice to hear, isn't it? I think more than anything, it's nice to hear that. Obviously, he did pay close attention to Samuel Eto'o's career, and he didn't switch off once he left Barcelona or Inter Milan, or one of the bigger high profile clubs. And it's up to Everton now, isn't it, to create a chapter for him in terms of, and also himself, Beto, to create a chapter now where Everton, where he leaves his own legacy. You think of Samuel Eto'o's time at Everton, didn't really blossom into anything. Did they? Showed signs of promise on occasions, but in the end it kind of just fizzled out. And obviously the same could probably be said about Deulofeu, in the sense of showed signs of real promise at certain points, but essentially just fizzled out very much, largely like his career unfortunately has. So hopefully now Beto will make a third time lucky, and he's one who kind of leaves Goodison Park with some sort of status among Everton supporters for all the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. But yeah, it was interesting, and I think obviously it's a dream come true for the lads, and now he's hopefully going to repay those in blue with plenty of goals.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot now, mate, because he's wearing the number 14 shirt.
Yeah.
Can you name the last players to wear our number 14 shirt?
Stephen Naismith.
So there was 4 that followed Stephen Naismith, so there's 4 that came after him.
There's 4 that come after him.
Yeah. None of them really worked, which maybe doesn't bode particularly well.
Stephen Naismith was...
Yeah, so Naismith had it between 2012 to 2016, and then I'll give the answers out. I'm sure there's people listening to this screaming at the phone. Following him,
was another one.
Cenk Tosun is one. Yeah, he had it 2017 to 2021. There's 2 before him. They were Umar Ias and Yannick Bolasie wore it for a season as well.
All right.
Yeah, and the most recent one gave it up last season. Andros Townsend.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, so there's a few players that have come in there and not done well, had bad injuries, so hopefully he can rid the curse of the number 14 shirt. Certainly in the last 4 anyway. But no, I think it's an exciting acquisition, certainly, and hopefully he comes in and does well for us. Moving on to on-pitch stuff, mate, we'll have a look back and then have a look forward before we wrap up today. Wolves on Saturday, I wouldn't say it was quite a carbon copy of the Fulham game, but I think Everton were quite as dominant. I think Wolves showed a little bit more in the second half, certainly, or maybe not. It wasn't quite a smash and grab, but there were certainly very familiar threads that ran through both games, weren't there? Being in the Gladys Street, and I've got no idea how the Corey didn't score that header at the end. The park and James Tarkowski missing from a few yards out, and it was just another really, really frustrating day, wasn't it? And as much as we can sit here and say, try and take the positives and try and look ahead, and if we can carry that into Sheffield United and other games, will be fine. It's another huge opportunity missed, isn't it, to get 3 points? Because as far as 2 home games to start the season go, if you tend to want to avoid newly promoted teams coming up, don't you? Early on, they can always spring a surprise. You'd probably pick Fulham and Wolves as 2 ideal ones, wouldn't you? And we've got no points and no goals from both of those games.
Yeah, that's the real disappointing thing for me, is that as I left Goodison Park about 6, 7 o'clock on Saturday night, it was that sinking feeling, which I've had a fair few times over the years, to be fair. But that sinking feeling of, well, that's another team who you would expect Everton to have beaten, who they've been beaten by. This wasn't. This it just felt like another game that got away from Everton, didn't it? And I think that's the real concerning thing, because I said on the pod quite early on, there's some of that when the fixtures dropped, what we kind of got in this opening month, or 4 weeks before the international break, was very much, if we had to all write down fixtures on paper, would not be very far from what we actually got in reality. And yeah, like you say, Everton City and now having been absolutely battered by Aston Villa and out 4-0, but it could have been more You know, you could argue should have been maybe more. And then they've lost both home games 1-0 after dominating for large spells, creating a whole host of chances, not taking them and being hit with sucker punches. And if we're being honest, being hit by conceding 2 really poor goals. You know, both goals Everton have conceded at home this season have not been very good. You know, they're not. It's not like Wolves or Fulham carved Everton open. They've been, especially Saturday's one from a defensive point of view, quite diabolical. Really, that it somehow found the ball, somehow found its way into the back of the net. So that's the real disappointing thing for me. I think is that they've tossed away 6 points already. And I wrote this on Saturday night, and people might see it a little bit harsh, but for me, Everton's battle to avoid relegations to Sky Bet Championship's already begun, unfortunately, and that's just the reality that Everton are in. I know people will take comfort not comfort, but will be, at least eased by the fact that there's a lot of other clubs in the Premier League. I think there's 4 others who are on 0 points so far. So I think people will take comfort from that, and Everton are not cut adrift already. But certainly in terms of Wolves and Fulham, they're 2 opponents who you would have expected Everton to at least take 4 points from, if not 6. And I think the worst part was that Wolves, for large parts of Saturday, were pretty dreadful themselves. They're not a very good team. And, if they're down there fighting relegation against this season, you wouldn't be surprised from what we've seen at Goodison at the weekend. But yet they still come away with a 1-0 win. So, yeah, it was another day of disappointment, I think. And I think any supporter who left Goodison Park perhaps fearing that the battle to avoid relegation has already begun would be right to do so.
Yeah, I think that the issue for me, and I think we've spoken a lot about the issues at the top end of the pitch, and we all kind of know about them. But I think going into the end of the window, I think in your head you have like an idea of what parts of the squad like you're happy with. So like in my head, I've sort of gone, centre midfield, yeah, I'm all right with that. Fullback, yeah, I'm all right with that. And then you go and watch them play, and you see, what happened at the weekend. And I think, maybe certainly the 2 games most recently, the Villa game and the Wolves game, I think fullbacks has suddenly looked at a big problem again. Nathan Patterson's not started the season well at all. I think Ashley Young has struggled a lot as well in the early weeks of the season. You were hoping that he'd sort of come in and be a dependable option for us, but he hasn't really looked like that so far. And even in midfield, you have a situation where the balance doesn't really seem to feel quite right. Madusa Gay struggled, and Nana's been in and out. I think Decore was probably our best player, in fairness, on Saturday, along with Jarrad Branthwaite. But it just feels like every time you think an issue's settled and you're happy with it and content with it, you see moments like that, and it's like, oh wait, we could do with another fullback or 2, or we could do with another midfielder or 2. And listen, I appreciate we're not going to solve every problem between now and Friday at 11 o'clock, but the squad still does feel, when the squad gets examined and put under pressure and gets involved in difficult games, you start to see a few more little weak points emerge.
Yeah, you do. And I think leaving Goodison Park on Saturday evening, you could have easily made a case for Everton needing to bring in another centre-back before the window closes, another centre midfielder, which when you think at the start of the summer, there were 2 areas where you thought, well, they're all stocked, they've got enough, and they should be able to cope, basically, at least for this season, get away with it almost. But yeah, what we've seen in the first 3 games so far this season has indicated that Everton are well short in both of them areas. I mean, Idrissa Gana Gueye was really good, I think, in his first spell at the club. But I think, last season he showed his frailties a little bit. I think this season he's been really, really poor. I think he's really struggled. But I think Sean Dyche has a massive problem when it comes to Idrissa Gana Gueye, in the sense of he's the only midfielder he's got who can naturally play in front of the back 4 and is happy to play in front of the back 4 is his natural position. So I think, when I wrote this in my analysis for Sunday, in the sense of when it comes to Guy, there's probably a good argument now that Guy needs to take out the team. If we're being honest, his passing, for instance, on Saturday was just dreadful. I don't many times give the ball away or got caught in possession. But he's the only natural number 6 the club have got. So does Sean Dyche risk taking him out of the 6 and then having to put one of, Garner, Decore, or Onana in there, but then knowing that that's not their natural favourite position? But at the same time, at least means it's taking Gana Gueye out of the firing line, or does he just persist with Gana Gueye in the hope that it'll at least enable Garner, Onana, or Decore to get the best out of them in further positions further up the pitch? I think it's a real dilemma for Sean Dyche, but I think the way things are going, Idrissa Gana Gueye is almost playing himself as the team's performances, if we're being honest. So I think that highlights the need, Everton's need for another central midfielder to certainly from a defensive midfielder point of view, to come in and at least give guys some sort of competition and give Sean Dyche another option if he's not willing to put one of James Garner, Amadou Onana or Adekore in there. And I think from a defensive point of view, I think Everton have always been a little suspect defensively. I think, there's always been question marks over whether Michael Keane's good enough, or Mason Holgate, obviously he's now gone to Southampton, but whether he was good enough, Ben Godfrey, whether he's good enough. But for me, I think James Tarkowski struggled as well the last couple of weeks. And I think, I said this on Friday, but it was maybe never going to happen. But if James Tarkowski would have been dropped alongside Michael Keane on Saturday after Villa, no one could have complained. And no one could complain if James Tarkowski is dropped for Bramall Lane on Saturday, because he didn't cover himself in much glory for that goal. Neither did Nathan Patton, neither did Jordan Pickford, in fairness. But it just feels like every sort of defensive, every frailty that Everton have got just seems to get highlighted and grown bigger and bigger with each passing week. And, I think while Sean Dyche would at least like to bring in one or two more players to strengthen them areas of the pitch, he's not going to. And I think he's essentially being left with prioritising certain areas of the pitch. But I think as things stand, the real worry is that it won't be enough, and that the gambles in certain areas of the pitch, maybe midfield and defence, could come back to bite, because what we've seen so far this season hasn't been good enough, and it all looks a little bit disjointed.
The one main positive, and we sort of spoke about it on Friday and have been speaking about it since the start of the season, really, but Jarrad Branthwaite came into the team and looked very much at ease, didn't he? Listen, I'm sure he will have other bigger tests than this throughout the course of the season. We were playing against a team last year that scored less goals than Everton, and Silva is a striker who's struggled since he came to English football. But we can only deal with what he came up against, and he dealt with it very well, didn't he? And I think there were a few times where he made good recovery runs, good tackles. But the standout thing, Connor, was just how easy he looked on the ball to me, and how he seemed to take his time, never really looked rushed or flustered, and could pop those little passes into midfield and bring it out when we needed it. And he's just got to stay in the side now, hasn't he? He's come in, he's taken his chance. The shirt is his, and it's going to be a case of somebody playing out the skin to take it off him, or him dropping off, because based on Saturday, he looks well ready to be playing Premier League football.
He was superb, wasn't he, from start to finish? He just looked he looked like he'd been playing Premier League football for years. There's one moment for me that really summed up, and I think it was midway through the second half, where he chased after Pedro Neto, brushed Neto off the ball, and then just easily passed the ball into midfield as if it was like, a Sunday morning walk in the park, and just kind of, as I say, like, dusted his hands and said, well, I've done my job there, there's the ball back type thing. I thought he was superb. And I think the most telling thing now, I think, for me is, he 100% deserves to keep his shirt. And he does not know that he could fast become Everton's first name on the team sheet in terms of centre-back. But B, I actually think it's going to take one hell of a performance from someone like either Michael Keane or Ben Godfrey to even get close to taking the shirt off Branthwaite if he continues to produce what we saw on Saturday moving forwards, because he was that good and he was that comfortable on the ball. And for me, the feeling around Goodison was just so much different. When he was in possession, no one was panicking. Unfortunately for Michael Keane, whenever he's on the ball, you start to feel the fear a little bit around Goodison. But there was none of that when Branthwaite was on the ball. It was almost as if like people were like, you trust him to make the right option, to do the right thing. And you can see why, like the PSV, the big clubs have supposedly been interested in Branthwaite, because he looks to have the whole package. And I know we touched on it on Friday, but it does seem quite baffling, doesn't it, that he's not been in and around the picture so far this season. But he was given his chance on Saturday. He certainly took it. He sent the perfect message to his boss. And for me, he's got to stay in the side now for the foreseeable, because he is one for the future, and he's someone who you can see blossoming to become one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League, because he just seems to have it all in terms of pace, power, the ability to get on the ball and keep ball, make the right passes. So for me, he's got to keep his shirt. He's got to stay in the team, and he's one to be excited by. I think in a time when Everton fans have got very little to be excited by, for being honest, certainly from a play perspective, he's certainly someone who you think, is someone to be excited by, and I think he certainly won't, not for the future as much, because we all seen on the weekend what he can do, but he's certainly one who you hopefully see playing for Everton for years to come.
Yeah, looks the business, doesn't he? And hopefully he can continue to kick on.
If only Sean Dyche would have listened to me in the summer when I told him I should be partnering
He's
with James
clearly not a
Starkowski.
listener to the Royal Blue podcast, is he?
Or Reese the Echo, because I also wrote it as well.
Yeah.
But at least now the message finally got through, and he's,
Yeah, we need a Jarrad Branthwaite. We need a Jarrad Branthwaite front page in the summer to get the message across. But let's chat about tomorrow quickly, mate. Obviously, League Cup round 2. It's Doncaster Rovers away. They are bottom of the entire football league. Everton at bottom of the Premier League, so of course it's on the telly. Obviously, I think the broadcasters are hoping for a bit of an upset here, aren't they, in this one? But from Everton's point of view, how much rotation do you go with? Because there will be rotation, obviously, won't there, for this game? As much as a lot of fans, and they got very own Chris Breesley's very much of the mindset that you go all out to win these competitions. I think managers always make these changes, don't they, for the early rounds of the competition. But put yourself in Sean Dyche's shoes again, going ahead to this game. Do you make 10 changes? Do you make 5 changes? Do you make no changes? How strong do you go for this one?
I don't think he can make 10 changes, because I don't think he's got enough options to make 10 changes, as mad as that sounds. And I think in certain areas he's got too many options to pick from. Just like, for instance, you look at like the forward line, you'll probably say Mopé or Schmidt will come in after not playing at the weekend. There's also Tom Cannon, so he's essentially got 3 going into 1. But then there's other areas of the pitch where you think at right back, for instance, it's probably going to have to be Nathan Patterson, because there's no, Seamus Coleman's still a while off, and there's no one kind of there to come in and replace him. Especially when you can think that Ben Godfrey will probably be given another centre back alongside Michael Keane. You suspect James Tarkowski and Jarrad Branthwaite might be given the night off. Mikalenko could come in at left. I think Mikalenko come in at left back for Ashley Young. But then when you look at midfield, it's pretty slim in terms of what you can actually do. There's not. Sean Dyche doesn't have loads of options in them areas. He doesn't have loads of options in the wide areas earlier. Maybe Young plays wide left or wide right, but then would he want to give him the night off, given he's played 3 consecutive Premier League games? And then in terms of youngsters coming in, there's not that many kinds of who you think are in a position to be knocking on the door to get a game. In a sense of, Stanley Mills has obviously gone out on loan, Lewis Wellington's gone out on loan, Reece Welsh has gone out on loan. So a lot of the players you perhaps would have earmarked for a run out in this type of game aren't at the club. So I think it's going to be really. I think he'll make changes first and foremost. He'll definitely make changes. Yal Virginia might come in for Jordan Pickford in goal as well is another one. But I don't see how he can really make wholesale changes. I don't think it'll be. I don't see how it can be a case of like Frank Lampard last season when he went to Bournemouth when he made 10 changes. I think it might have been, or 9 or 10 changes. I don't see how he can make them levels of changes, because I just don't see where he has the options from, unless he picks a very funky team. I think of which everyone will be fearing the worst once that team is dropped. This has all the hallmarks to be another Everton classic for all the wrong reasons. I'm not going to lie, when I seen on Saturday night that Doncaster were bottom of League 2, you do get that little bit of a shudder where you think, oh, there we go. Because we've all been here before, haven't we?
Only us would do that, wouldn't they? Bottom of the entire football league. Oh, no.
Everton have been here before when they probably played better teams and we feared the worst. So it's almost like the role reversed. Look, the fact they're playing such a team, we've had such a poor start to the season, Everton fans fear the worst even more than if they were playing, someone doing well in the Championship. So I think he'll certainly make changes, Sean Dyche, but I don't see how he can make wholesale, just because simply he doesn't have the options available to him. If Andre Gomez is back fit, he could potentially come back in for a start. But obviously he's been out injured with a knock, so whether they want to risk him. I think it'll be quite interesting as well, because there's a few players who are still being linked up moves away, isn't he, in the squad, whether they play or not, because you suspect that if they are, under consideration to leave, then Sean Dyche may not play them in fear of they pick up a knock, which prevents a possible outgoing transfer. So that'll be an interesting one. I think there might be a few hints there, but yeah, I think changes will be made, but I don't see how wholesale changes can be made, which will make things very interesting. I think come tomorrow night when team news drops. But yeah, I think there's just a feeling around this game, isn't it, of like we all know what's coming next.
Just get it out the way.
I would hope that Everton prove me wrong and win emphatically and win in a nice way and a good way. But we've all been here before, and an emphatic win has been anything but the outcome.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they made it easy. I don't think they'll get beat, but it's just it feels like every time we play like a game like this at the start of the League Cup. I remember, was it Lincoln we played a few years ago?
We could see that for like a minute or something like that.
Yeah, just like seem to make such hard work of them. But I mean, you'll probably go 4-4-2 only, just so we can get one of the extra forwards on the pitch and drop a midfielder out.
Seems the most realistic option, because, like I say, if he's to play one up top, you've got 3 forwards vying for one position, and you might think maybe does he give more pay a game to try and get him a goal? It's mad as that sounds, just to get his confidence back up. If he can try and get him on the pitch and get him a goal. So I think just a few aspects I think to make big tomorrow night a bit interesting. But I'm with Bees. I've long thought that Everton should take the League Cup seriously. I mean, it's long kind of always grated on me that managers haven't taken the League Cup seriously, especially when you consider, Everton have won a trophy since 1995. We're not Manchester City. It's not like we win a trophy every season or every other season. So, it's like, we'll give this one a miss this year. We're not really that interested. Everton, have been struggling to get anywhere near silverware for a long time. So I would like to see us go all out and take this seriously, but I suspect Sean Dyche will be looking at Saturday's fixture away at Sheffield United to Premier League and thinking, no, it's the big club's big priority this week and not a League Cup tie at Doncaster. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what he does and where he goes. Like I said, I think changes obviously naturally will be made, but I don't kind of see how he can make real wholesale changes because I just don't think he has the squad.
Yeah, going to be interesting.
Anyone you're looking forward to hopefully seeing make a run out?
The only thing I'd say about the team is I'd just keep Branthwaite in now. He's waited a while for his start and settle. I don't really mind making any other changes. I'm sort of of the opinion that you take the League Cup seriously if you get to a point where you need to take it seriously. If you get what I mean, like if you get to the quarterfinals or something like that.
I mean, go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but I'd just keep him in now. He's been waiting. He's not played much footy this season. He looked good at the weekend, and I think you just say to him, you're going to be our centre back for a while now. So I'd keep him in. But other than that, no, you're right. It's one of them. Like going into this podcast, I was thinking, right, I'd make wholesale changes for this game because Saturday is more important. But there just isn't the play, is there? We've got 3 centre forwards. You've got playing Chimiti, Mope and Cannon. And as we sit here now, we don't even know if Betto has been registered in time for this game. So he might be involved as well. So he might have four lads there. But Sean Dyche isn't going to go 4-2-4 in that sense.
And also as well, when you think of someone like Lewis Dobbin, who perhaps 10 days ago as a run-in, but then given Everton's problems out wide, does Sean Dyche maybe not risk him because he might be in a thinker for Saturday? So I think it'll highlight how unbalanced Everton's squad is more than anything tomorrow night. If we're being honest, I think in terms of what to expect, you would like to think, Doran, that this comment will probably come back to haunt me. But you would like to think that no matter who Everton put out tomorrow night, they should have enough to get past Doncaster. Doncaster has a poor start to the season and struggled and found themselves bottom of League Two. That Everton have got enough to get past, this side. But that feels like a comment that could come back to haunt me at 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
Oh, no, I'm sure we'll be fine. In that one.
They're famous last words.
but if we're not, we're back on Thursday. So if we're not fine on Wednesday night and we're back on Thursday, feel free to hammer us both in the comments.
It's all justified and deserved.
It will be well deserved. Don't blame Everton, blame us in that case. We'll wrap it up there. As I said, we'll be back on Thursday to look back at Doncaster and preview that huge game of Sheffield United going up against Tom Davis again, potentially. What an enticing prospect that is. But cheers to Connor. That has been your Royal Blue podcast. All the words are in there. We'll speak to you again soon here at the Liverpool Echo.